Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys? How are you girls? Welcome to grade 8 for geometry today, inshallah. Today, inshallah, you will study in your lesson extension of parallelogram. You studied before what about parallelogram and what are the properties of it. But today, inshallah, you will study how to prove that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. How to prove that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, first, you must know, guys, you must know, girls, that you have 5 cases. Okay, if you got any one of them, so the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, you have 5 cases. 5 cases. Okay, first case, if both pairs of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, that means if both pairs of opposite sides of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. For example, if you have a quadrilateral like ABCD, and you know AB equal DC, and BC equal AD, so each two opposite sides are equal. Okay, this one case, this one condition. If you have this condition, so you can say the quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram. Okay, if AB equal DC and BC equal AD, so this figure, this quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, this is the first case. Second case, if an angle of a quadrilateral is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. What? For example, if measure angle A plus measure angle B equals 180 and A plus D equals else 180. So now we can say that I have angle like A supplementary to its consecutive angles, supplementary to B and supplementary to D. That means measure angle A plus measure angle B equals 180 and A plus D equals 180. In this case, we can say the quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram. Okay, this case number 2. Case number 3. If both pairs of opposite angles of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. That means if you have a condition, if you have a case, each two opposite angles are congruent, so this figure is a parallelogram. For example, if measure angle A plus equal measure angle C and measure angle B equal measure angle D, so we can say each two opposite angles are congruent. So this figure, this quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if you have two pairs of opposite angles which are congruent, so the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, this case number 3. Case number 4, if the diagonals of a quadrilateral bisect each other. Okay, if you have a quadrilateral like any figure like this, okay, and you have a condition, okay, that this diagonal bisect this diagonal and the converse. That means this part equal this part and this part equal this part. So now we can say this quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, so here if EC equal EA and BE equal BD, so we can say the figure ABCD is a parallelogram. Is this case number 4? Number 5, if one pair of opposite sides of a quadrilateral is both congruent and parallel, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Okay, for example, if you have a figure like this, which is called LMNE, for example, and you have information that MN equal LE and MN parallel to LE. Okay, so we can say this figure is a parallelogram. Again, if you have just two opposite sides, but they are equal in length and parallel, so we can say the figure is a parallelogram. Okay, for example, here BC equal AD and BC parallel to AD, so the figure ABCD is a parallelogram. Okay, so we have 5 conditions. We have 5 conditions. Okay, check it. Check them with me else. Okay. Case number one. If both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, then the figure is a parallelogram. If each two opposite sides are equal in length, so we can say the figure is a parallelogram. Okay. Case number two. If you have one angle is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles, so the figure is a parallelogram. Case number three. If each two opposite angles are congruent, so the figure is a parallelogram. Case number four, if the diagonals bisect each other, so the figure is a parallelogram. Okay, but case number five, if you have just two opposite sides, but they are equal and parallel, so the figure is a parallelogram. Okay, so we are talking about five conditions. These conditions, these cases, okay, you don't need all of them, just you need one of them. Just you need one of them. If you got one of them, so you can say the figure is a parallelogram. Just if you have one case of them, just one, okay? Okay. Okay, for example, can you prove that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram based on the given information and explain? Okay, first figure. Okay, what do you have here in the first figure? Okay, we have two opposite sides which are equal and the other opposite sides which are equal. Yes. So we can say this figure is a parallelogram or not? Yes, remind with me. You studied 2 minutes ago, okay, that if you have each two opposite sides are equal, so the figure is a parallelogram. But here, I have four equal sides, no problem. But finally, we can say each two opposite sides are equal or not? Sure, we can say that. So now we can say this figure is a parallelogram. Okay, this yes is a parallelogram. But explain why is parallelogram? Because every two opposite sides are congruent. Each two opposite sides are congruent. Okay, this number one. Number two, what about this figure? What do you have here? Yeah, okay, just I have this diagonal bisected into two halves. So here you can say each two, you can say the two diagonals bisect each other? No, just one diagonal bisect the other. Not each of the diagonals bisect each other. So we can say not parallelogram because no enough information. No enough information. Okay, this number two. Number three. Okay, here. Is this figure a parallelogram or not? Okay, we can notice that. This angle equals this angle and this angle equals this angle. So we can say each two opposite angles are congruent. So yes, this is parallelogram because each two opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so if you have one condition, if you have one condition of five conditions, so you can say the figure is a parallelogram. Okay. Second exercise. What's the given here? The given is triangle TSR similar to triangle RTW. Okay. Remember with me first, what about similarity? Okay, triangle TRS is congruent to triangle RTW. What about congruent? Congruent means, yes, good. Congruent means corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding sides are congruent. Okay. How to prove this figure is a parallelogram? Okay. We can use properties of congruence. Okay, how? First, what about two triangles TRS and RTW? Okay, if TRS congruent to RTWC, so we can say RS equal TW. RS equal TW. And TS equals RW. TS equal RW. Okay, and TR equal RT, really, because it's a common side. Okay, so we can say now if triangle TRS congruent to triangle RTW. Okay, then we can say RS equal or congruent TW and TS equal RW. Okay, what do you notice? Yes, we notice that each two opposite sides are equal. This is one of the cases of proving parallelogram. So now we can say every two opposite sides are congruent. So we can say then the figure RSTW is a parallelogram. Okay, because you got one case of the five cases. So the figure RSTW is a parallelogram. Thank you for listening. I'd meet you after, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.